let's get some keyboard input and make this pig move around on the screen. Click on your pig node and add a new script to it. And it'll be GDScript, it'll inherit area2D because that's the node that it's going to be attached to. And we'll call it pig.gd create. Perfect. Once we've done that, we can run some code here. We don't need the ready function, but we will need the process function because we want to be able to do this every single frame. So you can delete these little number signs. Using the number sign like that is how you can create a comment in GDScript. We don't need those. We're going to start by checking some input. So we'll say if input dot is action pressed. Now it will want an action, and if you remember from the project settings overview that we had, these are the different actions inside of our input mapping. We're just going to use these default ones that come preloaded into Godot. We'll use where's right? UI right, colon, and then we'll say x, well, position dot x plus equals 200. If input dot is action pressed, UI left, position dot x minus equals 200. If input dot is action pressed, UI up, position dot y minus equals 200. So Godot works similar to other game engines such as GameMaker, where when you're moving in the y axis, up is actually negative and down is positive, which is counterintuitive, but that's how they're generally set up. If input.is action pressed, UI down, position.y plus equals 200. Just like that. Now if we run our game, should be able to see our pig moving around in the room. Is moving way too fast. Goodness gracious. So set these to something more like 20. Even that'll probably be too fast. Do 4. Basically, I just forgot that we're going to be applying delta to this. There we go. 4 should work. Oops. Oh, we accidentally used is action just pressed for left, which happens to be a great opportunity for learning. So if an action is pressed, this means that the action is being held down. If an action is just pressed, that means the action was just barely pressed. So if you can see, if we want to move to the left, we have to press the key over and over, where if we want to move to the right, we can hold it. So that was a happy little accident, as Bob Ross might say, because we've got, we can learn from that. But we want to do is action pressed, okay? But now we can move right, left, up, and down. And we're moving on, we're getting that input and we're moving on a Cartesian plane. So we've got, X is horizontal and Y is vertically, like this. And we're going to add a little bit more to this code. We want to make it a bit more readable, and whoops, there we go. We want to make it a bit more readable, and because this is kind of not super easy to read. So we're going to create a function. We'll call this function move. And this function will take an x speed, a y speed, and that will be it for now. We'll change this later. And we'll say position dot x plus equals x speed, and position dot y plus equals y speed. There we go. And we can change all of these to move for 0, move, negative for 0, move 0, negative 4, move 0, 4. And this will work exactly the same way that it did before, but now we're calling a function to move the pig around on the screen instead. Now lastly, we'll want to create a variable, and we can set this, we can actually make it a const, which just means this value will never change. Speed, set that equal to 4. Then we can replace each 4 and negative 4 with speed and negative speed. That way we can more easily change our speed variable when we need to. And it will update for every single location. And that's going to be it. It's pretty easy. Getting input from the player and then using that input to move the character around on the screen. We're just altering the position property of our area 2D, because you can see area 2D inherits from node 2D, which has a transform. So there's your position right there. So it's quite easy to manipulate any of the values inside of here that we need. And we can also easily see what values to manipulate if we hold Control and click on Area 2D. We can see the properties that we have access to in this node, and also the properties that we'll get access to in all of the nodes that it inherits from. So node 2D, for example, is where we get the position property. And this position property is a vector 2D, or a vector 2. Might as well say vector 2D, because that's pretty much what it means. It's a vector with two properties, has an x and a y. And so then we're just getting access to the x and the y of our position and adding to it. So quite simple. If you want to, you could, for example, using these built-in ones right here, controller support will probably already partially work using a D-pad, for example. But if you wanted to, you could go into your project settings, and like we saw earlier, you have an input map where you could add your own input actions here, and it's quite easy to do. You can add an action up here, something like keyboard. Well, let's do it this way. Keyboard right. You would then add this action, and then it would show up down here, and you could add a new key or a Joy-Con, a joy button or a joy axis or a mouse button. For example, we could add a new key. It says press a key. We'll press the right key, do OK. There we go. We've got the right key under this action. So we could easily replace UI right with keyboard right, and it will show up here. And this will continue to work because we've added our own action for moving to the right. And we could associate any number of keys with this action. But we'll switch back to UI left, or UI right, actually. And in our project settings, we will also delete this keyboard right action because we don't need it. That's it for this lecture. I will see you all in the next one.